fact that we do have a big deficit, and it's going to be bigger and it's going to grow. We didn't really know that to the same extent last year when we passed the budget. We didn't know that sales tax revenue was going to continue to go so far down, nor did counties, nor did anybody know that that was going to happen. You know, the projections were, we had projected less revenue coming in, but we just didn't know the extent of it. And even though there was an increase in the income tax rate, which is something I actually didn't support, but it went into effect, and so we thought we'd have more income tax coming in, personal income tax. It's not coming in. So a lot of the projections just didn't work out, and that's why we had such a big problem. You know, we have to vote on a budget that is balanced. We can't vote on one that isn't, and it has to be secured by the comptroller of the state, which happened, you know, last year. But things happened in the last 5 months, 6 months that
it's
just
been a
were
very
not
fluid
projected.
situation, and nobody predicted that would happen.
Sandy, I love you to death and full respect, but that's absolutely not true to say that nobody predicted it. The think tanks throughout the state predicted it. Our governor, who isn't exactly the greatest leader that this country has ever seen, he predicted it. The comptroller warned about it. I know that as a sophomore legislator, I said, you know what, we're going to be back here in the fall, because I talked to fellow legislators and they said that these revenue projections are shoddy at best. And at the end of the day, you know, I learned a lesson in 7th grade about Chile. Chile had a single market economy where they used tin, and they relied upon tin. And then tin went out, and the whole economy went through the floor. God, I hope it was Chile, and I'm not getting this wrong. New York State's done the exact same thing. They've relied upon Wall Street. We have relied upon Wall Street for over 20% of our income to the revenue, to this state government, to this beast, forever now. And then when Wall Street hit the fan, Albany said, oh my God, you know, what are we going to do now? You cannot rely upon Wall Street to continue this unsustainable addiction to spending. But, you know, and the other issue is, are people upset? Yes, they are, and why? We went to Albany and we're focused on the budget. How about the economy? How about jobs? How about small business expansion and creation? So we're focused so much on the budget and doing everything we can to focus on that part, which we should be, and making the tough decisions. But we have not passed a single piece of legislation while we were up there in extraordinary session to increase the job base in this state and to make sure that we don't continue to hemorrhage jobs. Well, and that's a real issue.
One thing that did get passed was what's called Tier 5. This is kind of a reform of the retirement system for state workers. Can you explain Tier 5, and how is that going to save local school districts and local governments and the state government money?
It was a major bill to get passed. Tier 5, we have different tiers. I'm in Tier 3, and you're probably in Tier 4. And we haven't been there long enough maybe to be in any tier.
I'm still waiting for them to put me in the basement.
Anyway, so when you work for government, you start out in a tier. It depends on when you're employed. And so what this does is, for all new employees, whether they're teachers or work for local governments or state government, that they're going to be in Tier 5, which means that they're going to have to spend some of their own money into the pension system. They're going to have to work a longer number of years before they are in the pension system.
Retirement goes from 55 to 62.
Right, goes up higher. And you can't do, we've been seeing a lot about this overtime business, that in many of the fields, with police and fire, they can only use 15% of their overtime to be part of their pension. Some people wanted no overtime to be used, but this was a compromise. They say that it will save us $30 to $50 billion over the next 30 years. So you're talking about, you know, it's not going to happen right away, but as people start to retire, it's $1 billion or more a year, which is going to be wonderful savings to our community, because that's where the stress is in our local budgets.
You're nodding your head. This was a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I believe overall we should move more towards a defined contribution rather than a defined benefit model. For those people who we made a promise to in a contract to, look, we've got to keep our promise. But states throughout this country are finding innovative ways to save money over the long term. And you add on to that maybe the possibility, you know, we could have passed tax credits to small business owners to create jobs, right? There are a lot of things that we can continue to do. I think we should be back up, and this governor should bring us back up there. We've taken care of the budget, supposedly. We'll see how that ends up at the end of the day. But now it's time to focus on jobs and focus on the economy.
When you talked earlier, Mr. Ball, about, you know, we should be bringing in the top economists to help us here. Any economist will say, in order to cut government spending, you got to cut jobs. Yep. It's a catch-22 because no one wants to cut more jobs when the economy is hurting. We're starting to see a slight decrease in unemployment. Today the numbers came out. Nationally, it went from 10.2 to 10. Do you, at the state level, believe that the economy is on the mend, or do you foresee that things are just going to get worse?
You know, when you look historically, the typical New York State recession lasts twice the national average. So when Iowa starts pulling out, Michigan starts pulling out, and Pennsylvania starts doing better, we still have a long road to hoe. And we've got to understand something very quickly, especially in the New York State legislation. I don't know that we do get it yet, because there's a lot, you know, in and out of that members lounge, a lot of people still drink the Kool-Aid. And we have lost over 2 million New Yorkers that are gone. Small businesses are leaving the state in droves. Young professionals, seniors, are leaving the state. People 75 years old are downsizing and leaving the state that they used to love their entire life. Young professionals can't afford to be here. If we don't address those core realities, New York State is a state in decline, and it will be lights out for New York outside of a very small square mile radius of Wall Street. And that, you know, north of Wall Street, north of Manhattan, there are some very serious issues that have to be dealt with, and I don't think Sheldon Silver gets it. I don't think his majority conference gets it, and I don't think that regardless of political affiliation, many in the New York State Senate get it.
You want to respond to that?
I actually think everybody gets it, Greg. I think
well,
everybody
why are we in so
knows.
much trouble then?
well, because we're in trouble. It isn't. Part of it is our overspending. We have too many levels of government here in the state of New York, so it's a ripple effect. It isn't just state government, it's local government, it's a number of schools. We have all this composite of so many different entities that is costing us so much, and we can't even compare ourselves to other states because of that. But this is our opportunity to make those good changes. And you know, in answer to your question before, I think next year is going to be, even if the jobs start to increase, or job loss starts to decrease, that we still have a $7 billion deficit, which is greater than what we dealt with last year. So it's going to be a difficult year for us. We got to keep on this path of trying to figure out better ways to do things. Public authorities law was a wonderful thing. Tier 5 was a wonderful thing that will help in the future and curtail our activity. In some of our departments, we've got to learn how to combine human resources departments. We've got to do what local governments need to do on a statewide level so that we can get our costs down.
Welcome back to News 12's Newsmakers. I'm Janine Rose along with Brian Coneybear. Today we're talking with two state lawmakers, Republican Assemblyman Greg Ball and Democratic Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff. Now, we devoted the first half of this program to the state budget crisis, but there was also another major issue up for a vote in Albany this week, the question of gay marriage. News 12's Tara Rosenblum filed this report just after the state Senate voted against legalizing same-sex unions.
This is an issue of fairness, and it means so many to people we love and respect. I vote yes.
Westchester Senator Jeff Klein made a passionate plea on why New York should become the 6th state in the nation to allow same-sex couples to wed. But those opposed to the bill were just as vocal Wednesday on the Senate floor.
And not only the evangelical, not only the Jewish, not only the Muslim, not only the Catholic, but also the people of the nation. Opposed.
It was one of the most personal debates in years, especially when Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson from Mount Vernon publicly admitted for the first time that her oldest brother was gay and initially shunned by their very religious family.
His talent and his sexual preference were not acceptable. And so he left this country and went to France. And he stayed in Europe his entire life.
Andrea Stewart Cousins of Yonkers would announce the fate of the bill in the end.
Ayes 24, nays 38.
The bill is lost.
A resounding victory for those who feel marriage should remain between a man and a woman.
What do you want?
Equality.
When do you want it?
Now.
But a crushing defeat for same-sex supporters in the state where the gay rights movement began.
It's a very hard fight for many of us for equality. and it's something that we're terribly disappointed in.
Disappointed but not defeated. That was the message at this impromptu rally that kicked off in White Plains only hours after the bill was rejected.
We wanted to bring this to the floor of the Senate so that we could find out who's going to vote for us or who's going to vote against us. Now we know. We know that we have 8 Democrats to get out of office on the next election.
I always have hope. This is America. This is New York State. It will happen.
Tara Rosenblum, News 12.